This is the story of a Christmas truce, a true story of a remarkable intervention of peace some 86 years ago in no man's land. During World War I, on a battlefield in Belgium, French and English soldiers were facing German soldiers along a front that extended 12 miles. During the weeks preceding December 24, 1914, both sides had suffered close to 1 million casualties on this very battlefield. The constant slaughter was so fierce that the dead bodies lay across the field, stretching from the Allied lines all the way to the German lines, and neither side was able to bury their dead. Even during Christmas Eve, the fighting continued all day. Then, at midnight, during the silence of that cold, moonlit night, a church bell in a town not far away began to ring out, heralding the arrival of Christmas Day. Suddenly, lights began to appear all along the German trench lines. The English assumed the Germans were preparing a nighttime attack. They grabbed their weapons and rushed to the edge of the trenches. "Please, God, not today," one of them said. A still hush fell over the battlefield, when out of the cold night air, the English heard a most beautiful voice coming from the German lines. When the German soldier had finished the first verse, one brave English soldier stood and began singing the second. The two sang together, in odd harmony in the midst of such discord along the line. One by one, men rose up from their frozen entrenchments and began to join in, until almost every soldier, German and English, were singing in their own language. When the chorus had stopped, one German officer started to walk towards the English line while waving a white flag before him. "Please do not shoot me. We don't want to fight this day," he called out. "I'm bringing you presents of beer and meat." An English officer then left his trench and walked toward the German. They met at the center of this horrid, body-laden field and saluted one another. They shook hands, then each turned toward their own men, calling aloud that it was safe to come out. Slowly at first, the bravest men came out of the trenches and walked toward one another. Then it became a rush of men. The two sides crashed into their enemies, but not to fight. They cried and hugged one another, for these men had a bond that only those who'd shared the incommunicable experience of war could understand. For the rest of Christmas Day, they spent the time together, sharing what little food and clothing they had with one another. They sang and laughed, shook hands, and showed photographs of their families, and for that one day, they were friends. At some points on the battlefield, both sides aided in burying the dead. They prayed and sang hymns over the newly dug graves. It was an amazing spectacle, one human episode amid all the atrocities which have stained the memory of the war. When the day was finished, each side returned to their trenches. A German officer stood up from his position and called out, "Merry Christmas and thank you." His English counterpart returned the salutation. Then he fired 3 shots into the air. The war was back on. For a brief moment, men, wearied from a long and traumatic war, had ceased from senseless slaughter to share Christmas together. "It was a day of peace and war," commented a German participant. "It's only a pity that it was not decisive peace." Decisive peace. 2,000 miles and 2,000 years away, in the remote backwaters of the mighty Roman Empire, a newborn's cry could be heard echoing from a cold and tired stable. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Comfort ye, my people, saith your God. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her, that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned. Our sins are forgiven, our warfare ended. A peace treaty was accomplished by this infant Jesus on the cross. Comfort ye, my people. Be comforted. One day the earth will know decisive peace, not for one brief moment on a distant European battlefield, but forevermore. Jesus came to Bethlehem today. We can have peace for our souls. He gave his life, a Christmas truce that never ends.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child.